top of the hour. A lot of picks on today's show. Of course, we do have the World Series. We'll have that play as also a lot of football picks. We got a lot of college football coming in, and we'll talk some NFL today on our show. And of course, let's go ahead and let you guys see who's on our show today. As we've got a good group here. We'll start off with Alex Smart. He gave us a good winner with the 49ers when we last had Alex on the show. Of course, Shane Mickle. Of course, Rod Zawaki. You can hear him on the morning show is with Chris Riffle will co-host with me. And Al Ninos sporting no Dodger jersey today for Al Ninos. He put that, maybe that's still in his washing machine. So he's got to get all that sweat off. As
close as I could get today.
Yeah, you probably need a couple of rinses through there. You know, got to get all that sweat out of there, don't you, Al? The first time didn't get it done?
Yeah, still. No, I mean, I'm still waiting on that part to get the washing machine fixed. So, yeah.
All right.
Can't wash him with a broken washing machine. Not into the whole hand washing thing.
Not a hand washing thing. All right. We'll
and I thought I lived in a small town. We still can't get a washing machine part.
Well, they take their time for those things, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll have a lot of coverage on today's show. And let's go ahead and bring in my co-host, Chris Ruffalo. Chris, how are things going? Of course, we'll recap on this Monday Night Football as we see the Chiefs get it done again defensively, man. I've told you, they hold teams at 20 points or lower. I think, 6 straight when they're on full rest. And, of course, the Cowboys' troubles continue with that loss.
Yeah, I won't lie. I think that the Cowboys game was the reason that I go by that adage. You got to stick to your gut, and it sounds cliche, but, it was true. I was on the Cardinals all week, and then something told me, yeah, you know what? Maybe Andy Dalton's a professional and he's led the Bengals to the playoffs. So maybe he can do something with that Dallas offense. Oh boy, that offense is in trouble and that defense is in rough shape as well. As far as the Chiefs-Bills game goes, the Chiefs are showing they're not just a one-trick pony that can put points on the board. They're a team that can stifle you defensively, which was kind of a knock on them in seasons past, but no more.
Yep, I mean, they got to start talking about this defense because Mahomes is the one that gets all the talk. But when you watch the Chiefs, it just seems to me the game plan, they know where the ball is going. They position themselves well. They don't get fooled. They don't make mistakes. It looks to me that the game plan is solid from this defensive side of the ball for KC.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they got a strong pass rush. They've got solid linebackers, and the secondary is great as well. And most notably is that you can see nobody's complaining, nobody's angry, nobody's not, I don't want to say having fun, but nobody's upset with where they're at, and that's something that you have to notice from well-coached championship caliber teams is that they're cohesive and they have great chemistry, and that's something that you can tell with this Kansas City team is that they are very cohesive. They work well together. They know their strengths, and they have all the strengths fit together perfectly like a puzzle, that just works out perfectly, and it's why they're one of the front runners to hoist the Super Bowl trophy again.
Yeah, and of course the news today with Tua going to start here. We've seen success from this Miami Dolphins team. You think this is the time to bring him in?
To tell you the truth, I would have, if this was the plan to bring him in the whole time, I would not have left it that late against the game against the Jets, because you know what, the Jets are just a pitiful team this year. And you know what? I think even if you give him a half of football, rather than just a few snaps near the end of a game of a 24-0 win, I think a half is better than a drive, and that's something that we're gonna have to look out for. Now, whether or not he's been healthy for a while, and this is just when they want to bring him in, that's one thing. But at the end of the day, as well, and we'll probably talk about this next week, I don't know if he wanted Tua's first full game as a starter to be against a defensive line that has Aaron Donald coming at you. That was a bit of a questionable decision for me, but you got to rip the Band-Aid off at some point. I think this is just maybe a little bit poor timing, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see, guys. This is the drive-through here Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time as we're here to break down the games, get you some picks on today's show. We have a lot, as we talked about. And let's go ahead and get it started here as we welcome Alex Smart to the show. You'll find him over at Pick Dogs Premium and doing very good performance up there. Alex, how you doing today? And, of course, going back on this conversation with Tua, oftentimes we see quarterback changes when the team's struggling, when they're not blocking, when they're not tackling. But Miami's playing better football. You think a little difference change of strategy now that we see a quarterback change to the quarterback of the future when the team is playing well?
Well, 1 year makes a huge difference. It's funny. You look at Miami, and think anybody thought we were going to see that big of a bounce back. But these are professionals. These guys, take respect in their game, and whether it's the quarterback, whether it's whoever it is, the organization obviously really, really bear down in the offseason, and they've come back strong this year. And I like to see it continue for them, really, after that embarrassment, because this is a big, long-standing, respectful franchise, and it's nice to see them sort of bounce back a little bit.
Yeah, really nice to see the team bounce back. And, of course, your thoughts here, what we saw in Monday Night Football with this Buffalo Bills. Look at the Bills side with Josh Allen. A little bit of adversity now for Buffalo. Teams know they struggle in pass defense, and they had a little struggle on the offensive side of the field as well in the last night's loss.
Yeah, and it's funny. Since Josh Allen has come in the league, he's really taken a lot of beatings, from the media, from, every kind of armchair quarterback kind of character. And I'll just throw in my own 2 cents here and just say that, I don't think he sees the field all the time all that well. I mean, he's not like a Murray with Arizona. He's not like Mahomes, and certainly not like, the great one, Brady. So, I think people were ahead of themselves. I think Buffalo got ahead of themselves, and somewhere down the line, the defense has taken a back seat, and they're not as. There is an old concept when you watch football, especially pro football, and that is even, I guess, college football. When teams start to get confident in their offense, for some reason there becomes this lackadaisical thing with the defense. Now, I don't know if that if that's just a generalization I'm making over the years, but that's the way I've always looked at it. Now, for whatever reason, I can't get into that. But yeah, and I think Buffalo's really struggling on defense, and I think that was the issue the other night, really.
Yeah, and of course, Dallas with Andy Dalton, the coach comes in. He had his struggles leaving Green Bay. We're seeing some sniping now from some of the players, lack of preparedness. And obviously, some players prefer Garrett and others don't. So the ones that don't, would prefer Garrett, they're the ones that are going to voice out and run those little texts to those little talking heads on that 4 little network.
Yeah, Dallas, America's team, and sometimes the players start to get into this Mike Tyson concept as I am the greatest, and I'm just looking at it from that point of view anyway. I think there's a lot of football is 50% physical and 50% mental. It's like most sports, and I don't think the mental is there with Dallas, and it hasn't been there for a while actually.
Yeah, it does definitely look that way. All right, Alex, you're going to be looking at a college football game here as you're going to be looking at this UL Monroe outfit as they're on the road facing South Alabama. South Alabama laying 14.5. This total sits here at 56, and I'll tell you, man, this ULM, there's been some really brutal performances against Liberty, 198 yards in a big loss. Against UTEP, 193 yards in a loss. UTEP, they could only look at UTEP, they could 31-6. I kind of have a feeling where you're going with this one, but how do you see this one, South Alabama and UL Monroe?
Well, you sort of tipped my hand here. When UTEP beats you 31, almost zip essentially, and you're averaging 13 points per game on average. You don't look like you're even interested in being around during this COVID season. And I don't know where these kids' heads at, but, we're just saying 50-50. Well, we're lucky if we're 10% with LA Monroe. I don't know what their deal is. I know Viator, when the team's starting to fall apart, he doesn't seem like to be the type of HC to bring his team out of anything. They failed to cover 9 times when they're out, giving up turnovers. And 3 or more, 0-9 ATS last night. I mean, that's just we're just going with a trend here. And that just tells me that this guy just, he just lets things roll downhill, and he has no way of pulling his team out of it. And South Alabama, they showed some decent defense so far. My number here is actually 17. If you're laying 17, not a great number, but here we have a decent number at 15.5, 14.5. I mean, that's great because of the line that I've attached to this, not because it's a great line. If we can get 14, that'd be even better. But, yeah.
All right, Chris, you're looking at this one here with South Alabama here laying some points. They did get a 10-point win against Texas State, moved the ball for nearly 400 yards. They did get beat by UAB. UAB definitely a much different class team than UL Monroe, but a 3-point loss to a decent Tulane team. So, but this UL Monroe team, when you look at the way they performed, I mean, it's just brutal.
Yeah, brutal. I might use my word of the day count here and go putrid. This has been a terrible Louisiana Monroe team, and that's not saying a whole lot considering that their best record over the last maybe 10 or so years has been at 500 with a bowl game and anywhere around or even less than that. But to be outscored by UTEP 31-6, and you look at Liberty 40-7, Texas State 38-17, Army was 37-7. These aren't like aberration games. Louisiana Monroe, for whatever that they had going for them offensively last year, has just shut down and has not clicked this season. South Alabama, not the best team in the Sun Belt, and Monroe did have a cover against Georgia Southern earlier this year, but that's not swaying me here. I'm on South Alabama like white on rice. I think you can push this one up to 16.5, and you try to get a little bit of extra plus money. But I think this is just a beat down from start to finish.
Yeah, hard to argue that talk there with in this game. Alex, I want to get your thoughts here on this. These teams from the Big Ten playing. We're seeing Ohio State coming in. We're seeing Purdue in action, Iowa in action, and there's a big number for Ohio State. Some of these big lines, I'm a little hesitant really looking at these favorites that are laying big numbers here. When you start the season late, you usually get that cupcake, those MAC teams. Although I'm not calling MAC cupcakes, some of those MAC teams can give you a hard time. But we've seen Ohio State play San Jose State. They've seen some of those bottom feeders. But now you're going up against a conference team, and I see some big numbers, and I'm kind of leaning underdog. And how do you see it?
Well, for these Big Ten games, anyway, the way I'm looking at those is, it sounds pretty strange, but there's a guy out there, or a syndicate player. I don't know if you ever heard of him before. He's known as Duffel Bag Boy.
Okay.
And Duffel Bag Boy. I don't know if you ever heard of this guy. I mean, he could show up with $7,500 to $100,000 in a duffel bag, and they take his action. And he's usually laying some pretty big lumber. So just watch these lines, and if you know anybody, this guy's got an amazing record. Anyway, like I said, I don't know if it's in the individual or a syndicate behind him sending him out to put these bets in. But have a look out. See if you hear anything about it online this week. Last year he laid? He laid like 34 points with Illinois in their opener. I can't remember.
I know.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
I know for a fact he hates Rutgers. I mean, he'll go against Rutgers. He likes to go against.
Right. I think, was that the game? I can't even remember now. To tell you the truth.
I know he likes to go against the bottom, like the Rutgers, some of the bad teams. I know San Jose State's the team he likes to go against. That Navy at San Jose State, I think he made a bundle on. I mean, there's been some teams that he likes to go against.
So you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
You want to do a Big Ten bet this week? This guy loves the Big Ten. He lives for the Big Ten. His whole life, or the syndicate that backs him, is all about the Big Ten. So that's the only thing I can say right now, because I like to see games sort of play out. And I'm not really always big about what the media or some of these magazines or anybody else says about individual teams, because, like, look at Alabama last week. Everybody was like, hey, Alabama's done, I mean, Georgia's on the way up. But what continually happens? Alabama just keeps on coming back. You know what I mean? And every year we hit ourselves in the head saying, hey, how long can you just keep beating yourself on the head with Alabama? One of these days, it will come to an end and completely come to a complete exhausting end, but not yet. Not yet,
exactly. And Chris, the same question to you. How are you approaching this Big Ten as they start conference? They start play straight with conference. No San Jose States, no UMass or anybody like that in their schedule. They're going head to head with the conference teams, which are pretty good, big tough opponents.
Yeah, and I'm also looking at last year's results, who did well, who didn't. That may be obvious, but also carryover. I mean, who's bringing back good chunks of their roster? If there's ability for them to get better there, and if there isn't, you got, like, for example, Nebraska. You got a quarterback in Adrian Martinez who has experience as a starting quarterback, but couldn't help but turn the ball over anytime he touched it last season. And going into Ohio State, I don't know if that's a great matchup. But the other thing is, you got to remember that there's going to be little to no fans in the stands, and the Big Ten's well known for having some of the craziest home environments in the country. I mean, you look at Camp Randall in Wisconsin, you got Ohio State, Iowa's an underrated one in the Big Ten as well. I think that's going to be one of the bigger things to watch, as to how a lack of fans, the effect it has on some of these games.
I'll bring that question to you, Alex, because I know you're a big better and you look at the NFL and some college football with the fan base. And how has it impacted your betting? Are you looking more on the road teams?
Yeah, and you try to there is an advantage of playing at home because you're comfortable at home, but then there's the fan concept, and it's hard to put a percentage on. Okay, so I'm comfortable. I'm at home. I had home cooking this week. I feel good, right? And then the fans that back me. So you've got that percentage, and how you break it up. It's been difficult, really. I mean, this is a whole new handicapping situation for a lot of us. So I don't know. I really don't. I wish I had a definitive answer on that.
All right, joined here by Alex Smart. Always call professional better first, handicapper second. He moves a lot of money around. All right, Alex, as we put ahead and get that pick for you up there is on South Alabama laying the points here against UL Monroe. As we're into our first handicapper guest here on the show, what do you have going on over at Pig Dogs Premium?
We have some Major League Baseball today, and that should be a real interesting game. And, of course, we're going to have college football this week and NFL as usual, and we're going to try to beat the crap out of the books for everybody, and that's what's on for this week.
All right, guys, check out Alex Smart over at Pig Dogs Premium. Fantastic season year to date, and that's what you want to do is get on board with Alex Smart. Maybe pick up one of those long-term packages, 7-day, 30-day all sports pass right now as we get into football. And again, we added 2 conferences in the Big Ten and the Mountain West. And next week we add the Pac-12 and of course the MAC. So there'll be a lot of games to bet on. So be sure to get on board with Alex Smart and pick up one of those long-term packages. All right, Alex, as always, great having you show. Continue that success, and we'll talk to you in a couple days.
Look for Duffel Bag Boy. See you guys. Take care.
All right, we're looking for him. All right. All right, back with Chris. You mentioned Duffel Bag Boy. I wonder,
I think I found it.
I think I found him, huh? I found him back there. I'm just trying to see if Alex has him under payroll or something to move some money for him. I don't know. That's interesting to get to hear that from Alex Smart. But we won't. I have no proof of that. I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
Yeah, I got no vertical. I got no vertical. I'm not jumping to conclusions either. So I'm just keeping my feet firmly planted on the ground.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, let's take a look at some of the action here for college football. I like this. I like some games. I like to see this Big Ten in action. It gets me going here. But we're going to look at this Notre Dame and Pitt game. And this game either disappointed or made some people happy last week. If you bet it late, you might have found a good number on the Pitt side. I may have found a good number on the Miami side. But either way, Pitt was without their starting quarterback, and that was a difference there. But Notre Dame on the road here laying about 11 to 10.5. Total sits here at 43. Keep an eye on the quarterback situation for Pitt, but Notre Dame couldn't get the offense going against Louisville. Didn't cover in that win.
Yeah, that's kind of why I've been bummed out about Notre Dame. I think they're on my no-fly list right now because Notre Dame. Yes, you're putting up points. Yes, you're winning games, but that's when I have you laying points. That's all I really care about in this line of work. So, for me, Notre Dame until they show they can really put their foot down, which is something that they've done in the past that for whatever reason they've decided not to do this year. And I'm gonna stay off of the Irish, but equally say the same about Pitt. I mean, this is a team that started the season well, playing solid defense and hit a couple bumpy patches, and now you have your starting quarterback out for at least last game. He's questionable for this one with an ankle injury, so like Tony said, keep an eye on the injury report. But for right now, I'm actually leaning towards the under here. I think we're going to see a lower scoring game, a lot of muddying around in the trenches between the 20s, and not a lot of scoring.
Yeah, possibly not a lot of scoring. One thing we know, Pitt does play Notre Dame a lot. They play each other, and Pitt has given them a hard time. But I prefer to see Pickett in there. I trust Pickett as a senior quarterback, and although Yellen did pass for 277 yards on a touchdown. But again, Pitt doesn't have that run game going. When you look at their run stats, they're absolutely brutal. I think they can't even get 3 yards of carry on the ground. And you always think of Pitt. You always think of those running backs, and the quarterback's just not getting help this year from the run game.
Yeah, look at it. It's they're only averaging about 108 rushing yards a game, which is by Pitt standards not good. Like Tony, like you mentioned, they have a long lineage of running backs in that group. And you look at the Notre Dame defense, still top 20 in terms of defending the run, but they're also top 10 in rushing yards per game this season. They're averaging almost over 260 yards a game on the ground. So, This could just be a battle of attrition as to which side's gonna be better at running the football. That's got me even leaning more towards the under right now.
Yeah, it could be the under. And of course, now we're heading into the last Saturday. No, actually, there is one more Saturday after this because Halloween is on Saturday. We're getting into late October, so you got to keep an eye on the weather now because you get those winds and some inclement weather now. I think we were talking to Shane earlier, and there was snowing in Minnesota.
Yeah, and I mean the weather is hard to predict. I think no matter where you are, unless you're out in sunny California or out in Florida or on any of the islands, it's hard to predict, and especially in like the Midwest where Tony, like you said, we're hearing snow right now. I think you always have to kind of watch out for the weather coming into games, but during football season early, I think you just have to watch out more for rain and wind. Now you're gonna have to start watching out for rain, wind, snow. Everything that can possibly throw you off. It's gonna happen, especially in 2020. You definitely got to watch out for these now. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Here on the drive-through here, we're here Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. A lot of picks on the show. We'll get into college football, some NFL, touch base on the Champions League as well. There will be some action tomorrow for you to help fill the card. And we'll continue here with Chris Ruffalo. Now his show pick right now, you're going to be looking at the Big 12 as Kansas will be facing Kansas State. We're seeing Kansas State favorite 19.5 to 20 points in some places. Total sits here at 48. We know Les Miles was struck with that COVID, but this Kansas team, man, they have just been brutal. They have not gotten any spark of life at all. No energy with the hire of Les Miles. They brought in. I think ESPN3 even did a little streaming show for him last year, and it didn't really boost the team at all as the play has just been horrid. So we're looking here at the K-State favorite in this one big.
Yeah, and I mean K-State is a team that they've cashed for us a bunch of times this season, but the last time we saw Kansas State favored like this was actually earlier this season. They were 15.5 point favorite against Arkansas State, and they lost that game outright. Do I think that's going to happen here? No. Kansas, the Jayhawks are just absolutely brutal. You look at depending on where you got your line last week. You may have got a push against West Virginia. You may have got kind of snaked by half a point. This is still a team, that's 3 of their their own 4 against the spread this year. 3 of those covers they've missed by at least 15 points. I can see this one being another beatdown from start to finish. This isn't your normal kind of rivalry. This is just Kansas State's the much better team. Kansas just looks lost, even with Les Miles running that program. I think Kansas is just mailing it in for another year. I want nothing to do with the Jayhawks unless I'm betting against them, so I'm going to take the Wildcats. I'm going to lay the points here with Kansas State.
All right, Chris Ruffalo says go ahead and take Kansas State to lay the points. I can't argue that. The only thing I would worry about here is if Kansas tries to get funny and run the ball, 80, 90% of the time. They've done that in the past. I think in his first year with Les Miles, they would do so. They didn't do that last year because it hurts your recruiting. If you're trying to get a quarterback, you're trying to get playmakers, and you're in the Big 12, and the recruits watch you play and they see you run the ball 90%, 80% of the time, you're going to lose recruits, right?
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's you're taking the approach of, oh well, you know what, I'd rather get through this unscathed than to actually take a few risks and damage the longer term prospects of everything. It's like you said, if you're going to run the ball 80-90% of the time, you're going to have a hard time getting a good quarterback. If you air it out and don't use your backfield 80-90% of the time, you're going to have a hard time getting a running back. If every action's going to have a reaction. I think it's just a matter of finding that perfect balance, but I'll tell you what a perfect balance is not. That's what Kansas is doing right now. They're losing games left and right, and they're not looking good doing it. This is going to be a long, long process for Jayhawk football, I think.
Yeah, you got to wonder if that hurt Les Miles in his recruiting, and we're seeing the impact of it right now when it went that strategy with just run and run. Yeah, the scores look close. They may have pulled out a game here or there, but it may have hurt their recruiting, and we're probably seeing the results of that right now.
Yeah, I think this could be the classic definition of someone trying to play quote-unquote hero ball. Trying to do it all on their own. You see Les Miles step in to try to be the savior of the Kansas Jayhawks football program, and it's just like even he can't do it. It's one of those things where you hate to call something a lost cause, but maybe it's time to call the Jayhawks football a lost cause. Because no matter who stepped in, it hasn't changed. It's been a perennial 1 or 2 win team for the last few years, and it's not hard to see that this is a basketball school, and this is, Kansas is just football secondary, but they're part of the Big 12, so it's almost like they have to have a football team. You know what I mean? So Kansas State, I think, is just a team in better position here. Like I said, I think Kansas is just a long ways off, and you had Khalil Herbert, who was their best player, and even he was done. He's like, I'm leaving. He went to Virginia Tech, and he's doing wonderful things there. But I think this is just a volatile situation at Kansas right now, and this is just a spot that you don't want. Many guys will not want to be in.
All right, so Chris, let's go ahead and lay the points here with Kansas State. All right, Chris, we hit the bottom of the hour. What do you have going on over at Pig Dogs Premium?
I have my it's kind of hard to do 2 for Tuesday when you only have one game on the board, but you know what? I still have my top play for Game 1 of the World Series tonight. Put it down for $25, as low as I can put it. That's my favorite play. I don't want to see that's my favorite play for the day, but it's a really solid play today. And like we always say, get on the longer term packages, especially when we're going to have college football later in the week, NFL to get you through the weekend, and then when college basketball, easy for me to say, starts rolling around, we're going to have stuff every single day, and we're going to be pulling out quality winners every single day. So, get on it early and start putting some money in those pockets.
Absolutely, guys. So now's the time to pick up Chris's long-term passes over at Pig Dogs Premium. Get a 3-day or 7-day or 3rd-day all sports pass and get every play that Chris releases for that time period. Good time to do it now in football, and as we're starting to pick up steam here with, as we said, 2 conferences start this week, the Pac-12 and MAC next week. We're going to have a lot of midweek action, some action coming in, and that'll lead us into the start of college basketball, which is about a month away, and maybe we'll get almost time to go to work and look at some of these teams, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. It almost seems like the break is not long enough for some of these guys, but for me, it's just like, no, it's trust me, it's long enough. Bring them back. Let's go. Let's get everybody going again.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, we'll continue here on the drive-thru. We're going to look at another SEC game, and a tough one. I think it's a tough one to cap here. Kentucky at Missouri here. It opened Kentucky 6, and now it's 5.5, 5. We're seeing some play for the home dog. Total sits here at 47. And, this Missouri team, they get that win over LSU. And, of course, Kentucky coming off a pretty good defensive performance. And, Missouri has covered against Alabama and, of course, in that win against LSU. The quarterback, Bazalek, coming off a pretty good performance against LSU, where he completed 29 of 34, 406 yards passing. And I think the reason we're seeing some of the money come down here, the Tigers, a home dog, they've covered 4 of their past 5. So how do you see this one?
Yeah, I think with Missouri, when it comes to that, is you're starting to see the effect that Eli Drinkwitz is going to have on that program, coming over from a winning mentality with Appalachian State over the last few years. And I personally think, though, that this postponement that Missouri had couldn't have come at a worse time. I mean, whatever momentum you had from that win over LSU was pretty much stopped dead at that point, and it's allowed everything to sort of cool off, and maybe that's given Missouri a chance to focus up, so there's no real letdown after that. But I think it's just that you lost a little bit of momentum there. In Kentucky, Kentucky's a missed extra point away from possibly being 3-1 right now, and they've looked good in their last couple games. They put the bolts on against Mississippi State, followed that up by locking down Tennessee on the road. I just think we're going to see a lot of running the football here. I'm leaning towards the under in this game. I might also lay the points with Kentucky on the road just because of how well they played on defense in the last couple games.
All right, Chris Rivel looking here at the under in this one, and I might look at the home dog. I think if I can get the 6, I think Missouri here. I'm not sure if in Kentucky on the road here in this one. All right, continue here on the drive-thru, joined by Chris Ruffalo, and now it's time to bring in our man Al Ninos, and he is, of course, as you know, a Dodger fan, and he's getting ready for this Dodger game. But we're gonna talk some football with him. Al, how you doing today? How you feel about the Game 1 of the World Series?
Well, got to go into it feeling good about it. I mean, no reason to be down on the Dodgers yet. So even down 3-1, I told you not to count them out. So I'm definitely looking forward to Game 1 of this one.
Yeah, of course, one of the bigger Dodger fans. He got the Lakers home, so he's hoping to make it 2 for 2 here with his LA Dodgers team. But we got a long discussion a little bit with championship. But we're going to start here with college football. Ellis, you're going to be taking a look at this Tulsa and USF game, and we know Tulsa's been one of the improvements in college football. They can play a little D. USF trying to figure out what they are. You're in the country there. So how do you see this one?
Yeah, I see this begin might get pretty ugly for USF here. Tulsa's coming off that big 34-26 upset of over UFC. Their offense looked also much better in that one than they did in their season opener. And yeah, as you just mentioned, their defense has been pretty impressive. They held this UFC offense, which is pretty good, to 26 points. So I think that's pretty good there. And they allowed just 16 points to Oklahoma State, where they didn't manage to produce so much offense in that one. But again, they're going up against a much weaker opponent here, and I expect that defense to pretty much shut down USF again. And I know USF likes to call themselves the Bulls, and as our man Mitch likes to say, they look more like matadors to me on the defensive side, and well, they don't look like they don't look too strong on offense either. So yeah, they've allowed about almost 41 points a game since their opener, which was a bit better, I guess, for their defense. But yeah, they're coming off a pretty good game. But again, this is a very bad team. I watched them play last year at the stadium there. And yeah, it's a very bad team, and I don't expect them to do good at all in this one. This line's already starting to move a bit, so I do suggest you get on it sooner rather than later. But I do expect Tulsa to win this one by at least 2 touchdowns, so I'm laying the points with Tulsa here.
Yeah, I was going to say go ahead and lay the points with Tulsa, and of course, this South Florida outfit's been bad for a few seasons. The defense has been poor, but they got close against Temple last week, losing 39-37.
Yeah, but they also gave up 39 points, and giving up 30 plus has been their MO for much of the season. And as much as we like South Florida and how they tend to try to battle, and they run the ball fairly well, I just think this is a bad spot. I think Tulsa's got momentum after that win over UCF, and again, this could be another letdown spot. You get up for Central Florida, and then maybe South Florida kind of creeps in the back door with points at home. This is a really tough one to call. I mean, I'm seeing the line around 50 or 51 points. I could easily see this one being a 24-14 kind of game or something along the line. So if you can get it at 9.5, I'd say take the 9.5 if you feel Tulsa. Otherwise, this is personally a no play for me.
Well, Tulsa's been a team that has seen a lot of layoffs. They started the season September 19th at Oklahoma State, losing 16-7. They knocked out the Sanders for OK State. Then they didn't play again until October 3rd in that UCF game. So now it's another 3 weeks until they play Tulsa. So are you concerned here about all this time in between games here for this Golden Hurricane team?
No, just more rest advantage there for them. So yeah, just like them even better for that. I mean, I think they'll be fine against USF. I mean, you might think let down spot, sure, but I went back USF, and you expect to be let down if you do there. Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, before we get into our Champions League discussion, Al, why don't you let everybody know what you have going on over at Pick Dogs Premium as we just passed the bottom of the hour?
Well, I gave you the total on the show yesterday, and I have a side on the World Series Game 1 on the premium side if you want to check that out.
All right, yeah, so check out Al over at Pick Dogs Premium. Fantastic year in the NFL. Why not pick up one of his long-term packages? He's got a 3-day, 7-day, or 3-day all-sports pass. Get every play that Al releases for that period of time when you choose a long-term pass over at Pick Dogs Premium, now available at the site. So take a visit to that. All right, continuing here our discussion. We're going to take a look here at the Champions League. We'll go ahead and start with Al. Just give us before we get into the games that we're going to look at, just give us your reflections here in match day 1 here of the group stage.
Yeah, we've seen a couple surprising results. I mean, to some, I tried to warn everyone about PSG yesterday. I thought Man U had a decent shot with all those injuries. PSG is a great team. I don't want to take anything away from them. And they're at full strength. They probably would have taken this game. But, yeah, Man U played a good game, too. So just hoping we get some good calls for tomorrow's game, too. I think everyone saw Juve coming. So that one came through as well. And Rod caught Sevilla too. I don't know if anyone caught that one. That was a great pick too. But on to some good picks for tomorrow too.
All right, Chris, let's get to your thoughts here. Some of the games we saw that late goal in that looks like that Man U game.
Yeah, not trying to take away anything, but I had the draw in that Sevilla game, but I'm not going to. That's all I'm going to say about that one. But moving, you know what? You look at some of the other results from today. I mean, like Al mentioned, we had the Juve game, and Juventus just came out and flattened Kiev. Kiev just for whatever reason doesn't travel well, but Barcelona did what we expected them to do. So did Leipzig. Lazio I think was the big shock of the day for me. Coming out and beating up Dortmund. They scored 2 goals early and just rode those 2 goals to the finish line. And I think Dortmund might be in a little bit of trouble now. Looking at the rest of that group, but again, it's only match day 1. It's easy to overreact after this, but just first glances, I think Lazio was the shock of the day for me.
Yeah, we're in the group stages here, so you play 3 opponents in your group here. And, of course, Al, let's go ahead and take a look at the match day 2 and group stages. We'll start with you here with Bayern and Atletico.
Yeah, this should be a really good game. Well, I think we're looking at the 2 best games of the day. So this one, couple injuries to worry about here. But I think the most concerning one would have to be for Atletico with Diego Costa is going to miss this game. And Bayern, they do have a few injuries, but again, this is probably the best team in the world. So Atletico is usually is actually not usually. They are a very strong defensive side, but I think Bayern's offense will be a bit too much for them on this one. And I do expect Bayern to win. They're laying a goal. Let me double check. Yeah, you're getting a little plus money laying 1 goal. I would go ahead and do that. And if you want to split and put a little bit on the money line as well, then but I think a stronger play should be on the -1, getting a little plus money. And the over looks pretty good too. As I said, though, Atletico, a very strong defensive side, but that's a pretty low line for a Bayern game, if you ask me. It's at about 2.5, 3, and I think they get to 3 goals at least in this one.
All right, Chris, how do you see this Bayern Atletico?
I agree with the side. I think Bayern. I think Bayern comes through. I think they do have some quality in that lineup. Diego Costa, for me, I don't think is as much of a factor. I mean, that's why Atletico did do a good job bringing in Luis Suarez in the offseason from Barcelona. But as far as the total goes, I think I'm going to have to somewhat disagree a little bit. I could see this being a 2-0 win for Bayern Munich. I think this is just a lower scoring game. I think Jan Oblak's the real deal in goal for Atletico Madrid. It's just on the big stage against a Bayern team that's won 36 of their last 39 games across all competition. It's no easy task. So I'm going with Bayern Munich to win, and I'm going with the under 3.5 at plus 145, and I'm going to go Bayern to win and under 2.5 at plus 335.
All right, on to the Ajax and Liverpool. Al, how do you see it?
Yeah, this one should be a little more interesting. I mean, probably a little more competitive. You might think Liverpool, they're coming off that great season in the Premier League. But Ajax also has been playing some great soccer as well. And Liverpool's dealing with the injuries in this one. And I think that will give Ajax a chance to maybe pull the upset off outright. But let me see the line right now. You could get about plus half a goal, plus a goal on the Asian handicap, even money. I think that's a great play in this one. I think worst case scenario is a draw for Ajax in this one. So yeah, I like Ajax in this one actually to maybe actually even pull the upset off.
All right, Chris, so you Ajax and Liverpool?
Well, Tony, you and I have talked about how much I love Liverpool, but you know what? I think even in this case, all subjectiveness aside, I think Ajax has a really good shot to win this, but I'm just gonna side with the draw. I think this is a 1-1 game, no matter which way who scores first or last. I think it's 1-1 from the minute I laid my eyes on this game. Because, Ajax is still a well-coached team. They brought back a bunch of pieces that made that run to the Champions League semis last year. And it's like Al said, Liverpool's dealing with a bunch of injuries. Virgil van Dijk got injured in the Merseyside derby in what a lot of people are saying is a questionable challenge by Jordan Pickford. But, Yeah, that doesn't change the fact that he's out for this game, and he's probably going to be out for about 6 months with an ACL injury. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, another solid defensive piece. He's out long term. You got Allison, the starting goaltender, out on the shelf as well. Joel Matip, Thiago Alcantara, who's making his debut from Bayern Munich, he's on the shelf as well. This is where this is not the title defense that Liverpool fans wanted to see coming into this one, but you got to play the cards you're dealt. This is going to show how well of how good of a manager Jurgen Klopp really is. If he can take over all these injuries, he'll be a better man than I thought he was, and that's for sure. But it's going to be a great game. I still think it's a draw, though, 1-1.
All right, quickly, Al, any other games from match day 2, any side or total that you've seen up there that really caught your attention?
Well, as a Panathinaikos fan, I wish Olympiacos the best of luck against Marseille, which is actually another team I support. My best friend's favorite team. He's from out there. So that should be a great game for us to watch at least. But as far as betting it, I might lean Marseille actually, but I don't know. Keeping my money away from this one, just going to watch it as a fan. I mean, not even as a fan, I'm just going to watch it and enjoy the game. But other than that one, Real Madrid should come out pretty strong. I don't usually like laying too many goals in soccer, but we saw Barcelona come through. Inter Milan at -1 doesn't look too bad either. And I think that's about what I like.
All right, let me get to Chris quickly. If you got anything else on match day 2 that catch your attention?
Yeah, I was thinking, excuse me, Shakhtar Donetsk in a double chance that you get the draw and Shakhtar to win as a single bet at plus 295, covering off 2 of the 3 outcomes, and against a vulnerable Real Madrid team sounds like a good option to me, and nearly 3 times my money. Or you can go with both teams to score and the over possibly at -110. I think both teams score, but it was juiced to like -220. And I like Inter Milan and Borussia Mönchengladbach to draw. And I think Mönchengladbach is just a tough team out of Germany. They're one of the best defensive units in all of Germany last year. And Inter Milan, they're still licking their wounds from that Milan derby. And this is going to be a tougher game than I think a lot of people are going to give them credit for. So I like the draw here as well.
All right, likes the draw. Christopher El Nino's here looking at Champions to get you guys ready for the action tomorrow afternoon. So be sure to check your local listings. CBS will cover it on their All Access, or you can put it on the Univision networks out there for free and find it out there, the Champions League. All right, Al, as always, great having you on our show. Good luck with your Dodgers, and have a good night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks. Yeah, always a pleasure, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, everybody. El Nino's here on the drive through, and of course back here with Chris Ruffalo. Guys, we'll take it to the top of the hour. Still a lot more picks coming. We got college football. We're also going to cover the Rays and Dodgers game 1. You'll get a pick from that one, as well as some NFL in there as well. But let's continue the show, and we're going to go ahead and bring in Rod Zawaki. You'll hear him in the morning show with Mitch and company. And of course, Rod, a really good handicapper with us. We're going to bring him in right now. Rod, how are you doing this afternoon?
Doing good, Tony.
Great. Did you have it?
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
I know, right?
Did you have any? It was good to see something in the afternoon, right? We were used to seeing hockey, basketball, and now we got Champions League, right?
Back to soccer. Don't even get me started.
Rod's affinity for the Bundesliga was definitely touched on in the COVID era. Rod loves the Bundesliga.
He just loves the Bundesliga. No doubt about that. All right, we're going to talk.
But it wasn't a horrible day for me in soccer. It was a 1-1-1. I think I went 1-1 and a push on the one. So
all right, but we'll get
1-1-1.
I'm sure on the morning show you'll get Rod's take on some of the games tomorrow afternoon. We're listening on the morning show, and I'm going to ask you this question, Rod. Looking at some of these Big Ten as they go into action, there's a lot of big lines here, and usually the Big Ten, they usually play those softer opponents. And I'm not saying the MAC. We see a lot of MAC teams against them early, but sometimes you'll see the San Jose States. You'll see some really, even D2 teams, right? Northern Iowa is giving Iowa a run for their money. But how do you approach this Big Ten here as we're seeing conference action right away, and we're seeing some fat lines in some of these games?
Well, for most of these games, you got to remember this is their first game out the gate. Nothing. So these teams haven't even had a game under their belt to get things going. So I think we're going to see a lot of slow starts and a lot of these Big Ten games. Teams that are just getting their season rolling here.
Yeah, no
Before
question about.
they can gel. You got your new guys coming in, the guys that have left. You're so many moving pieces on a college football team that it's going to take a couple games for these teams to actually get right in and rolling.
Absolutely. All right. You're going to be looking at one really bright and early here. Big Ten Network. Good to see that network back again. We got Rutgers and Michigan State here. At open, Michigan State 16 has come down to 13 and a half. The totals really come down from an opener of 46 and a half down to 46 and a half, 44 and a half. I do see a 45 with juice in some places here. And of course, Michigan State going through a lot of change. With the coach, leaving D'Antonio, shocked everybody when he left. D'Antonio, and of course, you think about what Rocky Lombardi, that Goldilocks, the guy with the gold hair at quarterback. Man, that was a brutal sight last year, man. I tell you, they can't get the run game going. They used to have a really good ground game the last 3 years. The run game's gone to hasn't been well. And of course, we know Rutgers. I mean, Rutgers is the team people like to go against. Although they did have some point spread success late in the season, and of course, they've been played some low scoring games with Michigan State the past couple of seasons. But how do you see this one?
For me, I see in this one, you got both these teams coming out playing their first game of the season. Rutgers last year, their offense was abysmal. They were 121st with the pass, 101st with the rush, averaging 13.3 points a game. And that's not going to get done too many times. With their record of 2-10, they were 0-9 in conference play in the Big Ten last year. They got blanked 4 times in 4 games, so I'm definitely not expecting a huge change. From Rutgers here. So I'm looking at Rutgers if they get a 0 or maybe a 7 at the most if you're lucky. And then you look at the other side at Michigan State on their side of the ball. They weren't blowing people out of the water either, averaging 22 points a game. And they're returning 4 guys on offense, 2 on defense only. So they're basically starting fresh right off the hop as well. So I definitely not looking at no offensive output on that. And even that line movement on this line down to like 44, as you said, I'd even take it under 44. I see this as be like if you get 13-7. I think this is we're gonna see a lot of punts. We're gonna see more punts than touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, okay. Rod Zawaki says take more punts than touchdowns in this one. Look at the go under here with Rutgers and Michigan State. It's a low total. It's low for a reason, Chris, because these offenses aren't very good.
No, and as bad as Rutgers was defensively last year, I mean, there's not going to be a whole lot of carryover, and Michigan State. Last year they were slow starters as well, and I think Rod's got this one dead on. I was a little bit upset that he caught it on the email thread that we have before the game because I was like, darn it, I wanted that one. But you know what? But like I said, I think he's got it. I think he's got it right on. I think if this is a beatdown, I still think a beatdown can qualify as 28-7. I can see this one struggling to hit 40 points if it even does. So I'm on the under as well.
See, and that's what when you have a quarterback like Lombardi who can't even complete half his passes, that's when you like the fact that you're up because you're not going to want him to make mistakes. It was almost like that Miami Jet game that we talked about. Get the lead and just sit on the ball. That's what you're going to do here because you can't trust Lombardi. You don't want him to throw the football and put points on the board for the other team, right, Rod?
Well, yeah, exactly. You get a lead and then they'll just try to run the ball and eat the clock. That's what I see in this game.
Yeah,
whole lot of clock eating.
This one might be over early. This might be over by by 2:45, 2:30. They should have an over under when these games are over, and this will be the first game over at the noon Eastern.
Last year it was 27-0 was the score in this game, so I could see that again.
Yeah, I could see this one being the first final of the week as it starts at high noon. All right. Joined here by Rod Zawaki here on the drive-thru, guys. We're every Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We're giving out picks, and of course, as we approach the top of the hour, what do you have going on over at Pick Dogs Premium?
I still got the winning side in Game 1 of 2020 World Series here. Or jump on one of those 3-day pass month. Big weekend coming up. As you can see, we're locking into these football early, and I'm definitely finding some nice spots to make some big money for Christmas coming up.
Absolutely. Christmas coming up. Now, good time to take one of those 3-day, 7-day, or $30 sports pass from Rod Zawaki over at Pig Dogs Premium. And we get one of those long-term passes, guys, and you'll get those early numbers, because we don't really release the plays until the night before on some of this college football. But if you see some really good early games, those will really only go out to those package customers, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So the ones that jump on in the long term, they get a little better treatment over here at the site. But we treat everybody good. But that's what you want to jump on, is something long term.
Because sometimes you can see those early lines in college football or NFL, and you want to jump on them, get the best numbers, to make sure the package customers get the best numbers. Of course, we can't release those the day before for some of the customers that buy the single-day passes, the one offers. But if you get those packages, you can get in on some of the best plays that they give out, which are the early games. And before we get these line moves, and you get the best numbers. Remember, when you handicap these games every day, Rod, I think we have an edge. We can jump on those early numbers.
Well, yeah, because that's what we do. We're on it 365 days a year. Yeah,
and speaking about long-term packages, Chris, getting those early numbers really, I think, are a benefit to guys like us and bettors who do it every day, because they have an edge by following some of these teams all year round.
Oh, absolutely, and I think if you get on a line early enough before it jumps 3 points, if it goes through a key number like we talk about, that can be huge. That can be the difference between a win and a single bet, or a win on a parlay, or an outright loss, and that's huge. I think something can also be said for people who choose to wait just to see in case the line drops, but you can't always rely on that. Sometimes you got to just go. If a line looks good, don't try to wait for it to get better. Just take it for what it is. Get the line while you can, get it good, and then just if you find it gets better later in the week, bet it again. I'm not telling people how to spend their money, but it's just the most logical thing to do, I think.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. All right, Rod, it's always great to have you on your show. Have a great night. Check Rod's play here from the World Series, Game 1 over at Pig Dogs Premium. And, of course, you can listen tomorrow on the morning show with Mitch and company at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. They'll talk about some of the day's action, cover World Series Game 2, but you'll get those Champion League picks as well for that afternoon action. All right, Rod, as always, have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, you guys have a good night. See you in the morning, Chris.
All right. Well, and don't forget to wait to the end of the show. We get one of those bird cages from Rod Zawaki here. All right, guys. Have a good night, and we'll bring back Chris over here on the show. And, of course, this proves that we don't force plays out of cappers. The cappers that we talked about earlier in the show, they turn the games into us, because we feel that you'll get the best quality selection. So this game ends up as a game discussion, Chris. It's the Dodgers and Rays, game number 1. So you and I are going to tackle this one. Glasnow and Kershaw. Of course, Kershaw, the Dodgers laying about $1.60, total sits at 7.5. Is this one of those games where you kind of favor the pitching, maybe look for lower scoring games early, and then the offenses get going here in games 3 through 7?
Well, I think it's kind of how it is, how we've seen through all the playoff sports, is that you maybe get a little bit of an adjustment period through, games 1 and 2, let everyone make the adjustments and then go on from there. I mean, obviously baseball is a little bit different because a lot of it centers around maybe a starting pitcher. But, I mean, you look at game 1, and, I mean, this is one of the tougher games I think we've had to call all postseason, because it could genuinely go either way. You could get a solid outing from Glasnow and the Rays win, or they could even lose that game if Kershaw pitches better. You can see Kershaw blow up, or you can see him throw 7 strong innings. It's one of the hardest games I think like I said, that we've had to call all postseason. But in the end, I do think that the bats are going to take a little while to adjust, and you have the 2 most noteworthy arms in their respective rotations, outside of maybe Blake Snell for the Rays, to go out there and silence those bats. And I think that's going to be a big part of if it's a lower scoring game tonight. I think that the starting pitchers are going to be why. Yeah,
I'm with you here, and of course, I like in this one. I like the under 7.5 in this one. One of the reasons why is because these lineups aren't familiar with the pitchers they're seeing. Dodgers have not seen Glasnow. They have not seen the string of relievers that are coming in for Tampa Bay, and the same holds true for the Rays. Seeing Kershaw, they're going to see that curveball hit. They're going to see that funky windup, that funky delivery of Kershaw's, and they have not seen it. Where some of these players, Kershaw's been in the league forever. He's been there for a long time. They probably already have a read on him, but these AL bats don't. So I think you're onto something there, where you kind of look to bet on pitching here in the opener.
At least early on. I mean, you still have to take into consideration that Kershaw doesn't have a great history in the postseason, and then that's always going to be brought up until he retires. And you got Tyler Glasnow, who has, you look at his recent history, that the Rays only lost one or two of his starts all season long. The last one, or one of them being his last start in the postseason. So, yeah, I do think that starting pitching is going to take a little bit more of a front and center approach in the first couple games. And then it's going to shift to the bullpen sort of mentality of, okay, well, now we have all hands on deck. The bullpens are in full effect here. And, I mean, this is if Tampa wanted to have an advantage coming into this one, you're catching the Dodger bullpen at the right time. Maybe not for LA's liking, but you're still going to be getting a shaky rotation in what the Dodgers have right now with Jansen and Ferguson and Trinan, who did look really good in game 7. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that the Tampa Bay Rays built their success around their pitching, and I think that's going to be a huge advantage for them in the series.
Yeah, it looks to be that way, and of course we got a big unders run here from Tampa. What they've gone under and won all but one game in the playoffs, right?
And I think that was the one game that I bet the under, to tell you the truth. The one that went over, I think, was the one. I remember it was against the Yankees. I think it was in the middle of that series, and I was like, it's gone under every game this series. Why stop now? And then it went over.
Yeah, 17 Clipper makes a good point here, saying that Moose has seen the Red Sox pitcher, so that is a benefit there. But he's one batter out of 9 for the Dodgers. So that Mookie, maybe they might want to be careful with Mookie Betts. Maybe pitch around him if he's had success against Glasnow.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't always pitch around guys just because they have experience with you. At the same token, some of these relievers or some of these pitchers have seen Mookie Betts their fair share of times, and maybe sometimes he's all they'll face. This year was correct me if I'm wrong. This year or maybe last year, I think it was this year was the first year where the 3-batter minimum was implemented. Mm-hmm. So if you have some of these relievers where coming into to face Mookie Betts was their job, maybe that you have one or two pitchers that he was like they were quote unquote Mookie specialists, but even then, these are. It's still a division team that you play 19 times a year in a regular season. So the Rays pitchers are just as familiar with Mookie Betts as Mookie Betts is familiar with them.
All right, here we're here on the drive-through. I like the under 7.5 here for this game between the Dodgers and Rays, game number 1 here on the drive-through. Still have more picks coming. We got some college football as well as NFL as we continue on. And let's go ahead and welcome our man Shane Mickle here to the show. Shane, how you doing today? And I'm hearing you're getting some snow out there in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think they're saying it's the snowiest, it's the earliest, snowiest day ever, or at least in the last 100 years. So I'm ready to get out of this state. I'm sick of the snow already.
All right, the snow in Minnesota. Is that some sort of omen for the winter?
Yeah, well, that's the talk. All the talk is about how it's going to be really snowy, so I hope not.
All right, I hope not. And I want to get, before we get into your game pick, of course, Minnesota-Michigan is one that really stood out here as we talked a little bit about how the excitement is over there for that Golden Gophers program.
Yeah, it's huge, but this is Minnesota Gopher fans are going to know right away what type of team this is. This is a team that can play with the big boys, or are they going to be disappointing like they always seem to be? But I think, not even being a homer, just looking at the stats too, this I really think that they win.
All right, of course, we're joined by Shane Mickle. Of course, he's out in Minnesota, a guy up in the north. So, of course, tell us what's going on with this Minnesota Vikings team. Is Zimmer under the gun? Is there a lot of pressure there? How do you see the rest of the season going here, where the first half of the season pretty much been a disaster? At
this point, I'm cheering for him to lose. I hope that we can get a high enough draft pick. Obviously, we're not going to get Trevor Lawrence, but if we get Justin Fields or Trey Lance, maybe sneak up in that top 5 and grab one of those guys, it might force someone's hands. But if that doesn't happen and we end up, 10, 11, 12, I could see the Vikings giving Zimmer another year, blaming on the young defense. The defense is showing improvement, even though the stats really haven't showed it. But yeah, I hope that there's a cleaning of house, and I hope we have a new quarterback week 1 next season.
All right, joined by Shane Mickle. He's up in Minnesota, so he's our guy up there in the Great North. All right, Shane, you're going to the South for this one. As we got Alabama and Tennessee in the SEC. We've got Alabama in favor on the road here by 21. Total sits at 66. This has been a big jump here from an opener at 62.5. Of course, we know Tennessee had their quarterback issues last week against Kentucky. Alabama just, was able to get their offense going, beating Georgia. How do you see this one?
Yeah, if anyone follows my picks, I really don't like laying this type of number for me. So for me to give out Alabama at 21, I've really got to like it. Tennessee's football program says they can't find a quarterback, and I mean they haven't announced a starter for this week, but I don't think it matters who they start. This is going to be the first one to 40, and it's going to be Alabama that scores 40 first. I see this Alabama winning big. I don't put my premium picks in early, but if this line stays around 21 or even drops a few numbers, this will be a premium pick for me on Saturday.
All right, Shane Mick will come in here with Alabama laying the 3 touchdowns against Tennessee. Chris, this Alabama team, a totally different look here for Saban. This get the offense in. Mac Jones completing, 78% of his passes, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks. And, of course, Saban just has to grit his teeth as he sees his defense on the field a lot because Alabama's moving the ball, and it's a fast-paced offense and big plays everywhere. So how do you see this one?
Yeah, the concern for Alabama is that there's a lot of arm tackling going on, and these guys, these college football players, especially in the SEC, are not small guys. They're going to break through an arm tackle. We saw it a bunch against Ole Miss. We finally saw Alabama kind of wake up out of their slumber against Georgia and then really pour it on in the second half. You just look at the history, though, between these two teams. Alabama's won the last 4 meetings head-to-head, and each by at least 22 points. So is it kind of apropos that the line's at 21? Maybe. But I still think that, given the form, Tennessee's kind of cooled off from the team that came in playing well after finishing last season really well. Alabama's just kept getting stronger as the season went on outside of that blip against Ole Miss. So I can definitely see the angle here. I'm on Alabama as well, personally.
Yeah, it's hard to go against that, especially because you're looking at the Mac Jones' completion percentage. Of course, the Tennessee Vols, their quarterback situation that's got to be concerning there on the Vols side, right, Shane?
What was that? I cut out. What was your question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're looking at that quarterback situation. A lot of confusion over how they're gonna play it. The Vols here. Who are they gonna throw at against Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, they tried to go to their backup last game, and first play threw an interception, or maybe the second play threw an interception, and against the Alabama secondary that has been shaky, but when they're not facing an elite quarterback here, so I think no matter who goes out there, I mean, they might honestly run both of them, go series in, series out, or something like that, but I don't. In some big trouble.
All right, Shane, now as we hit the top of the hour, what do you have going on over at Pig Dogs Premium?
Just one play tonight, MLB side, and then I'm locked in on this. I didn't have a great UFC weekend last weekend, but I really like this card again this weekend. We'll have a play on Thursday for that, and then I'm looking forward to college football on Saturday too. Should be a fun Saturday of UFC and college football.
Absolutely, should be really good. We're getting some late games now from the West Coast, so we got it all day and into the night next week in college football, guys. So pick up Shane's premium picks at Pig Dogs. Why not pick up one of those long-term passes, 3-day, 7-day, or 30-day all sports pass over at Pig Dogs Premium, and get on board with Shane Mickle. All right, Shane, as always, great having you on the show. Good luck with your pet plays, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. See you guys Thursday.
All right, our buddy Shane Mickle here on the drive through here. Just a couple more games discussions and a pick here for you guys as we continue. Chris, I'd like to look at this interesting one here. I like this one here. Titans and Steelers. Steelers at home on the road here to face Tennessee Titans, and the line was really close here at last check. Let's see if we've got the Steelers still short favorites here as I will take a look here at the line. I hope I can find the game. Are they playing this game? Let's see.
Don't do that to me, Tony. Don't do that to me.
No.
We've already been through that.
Oh,
no.
no.
I still see Pittsburgh minus 1.5.
Yeah, it got a time change here. Minus 1.5, 2, and let's get a total on this one. They moved the rotation on me. I guess they moved it up from a later start.
I'm seeing 52.
Yeah, 52 in this one. Of course, both teams having success. So the defense for the Steelers has been solid. They go in and beat their division rival. Now, that was a get-up game for them. How do they come back and face this Titans team who's been hot?
Yeah, I mean, the Titans have been on fire. They really put the boots to Buffalo earlier in the midweek this week. And that trip to Tennessee, giving points to Tennessee as a home dog, given how they played this year and given how well Mike Vrabel has them going, is scary. But I think side by side, I think just the Steelers are just the better team defensively. And I mean, you look at the offensive unit side by side. I like Roethlisberger better than Tannehill. Obviously, I like Henry better than whoever Pittsburgh rolls out. But the receiving core and the tight ends, I just think Pittsburgh's a little bit healthier, a little bit stronger, a little bit better. Maybe this is a trap. Maybe someone already knows something, because I would have expected Pittsburgh to be a dog in this spot. So I'm gonna lay the points with Pittsburgh here. It's a lean, probably a game I'd rather watch than bet. But yeah, take it for what it's worth. I'd lay the points with the Steelers.
I say, Chris says, go ahead and lay the points with the Steelers. Only concern here with the Steelers is they lose their Devin Bush. Now, he's a leading tackler in the front seven, and for the Steelers and linebacking core, they're not very deep at linebacker. Of course, the Titans took a hit because they lose their left tackle for the season. So injuries on both sides, but we're looking here at an impact player on defense, and Devin Bush out for the year for Pittsburgh.
No, I think Devin Bush is, and you touched on my next point. I mean, Devin Bush is a huge loss for Pittsburgh and one of their less formidable linebacking groups over the last few years. But I also think that the loss of the left tackle for Tannehill is and the Titans offense is massive. I'm trying to figure out if Tannehill, I believe, is a right-handed quarterback.
Yep, yes he is.
So that's taking away his blind side and putting in a backup left tackle on his blind side against the Pittsburgh defense that still has a really good pass rush. That could cause some trouble for Tannehill in terms of getting the timeout. I think you could see a couple fumbles on here as well. I think you could see a couple strip sacks.
Yeah, that's a concern that Pittsburgh will try and exploit that. So we'll see how Tennessee plays it out here. Guys, at the drive-through here, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's time for my pick, and we're going to look at Big Ten action, Penn State, Indiana. I'm going to take the home underdog Hoosiers at plus 6.5. Indiana, an 8-win team from a year ago. Well, they returned 8 starters to an offense that produced 32 points and 433 yards a game. But I like their quarterback, a redshirt sophomore, Michael Penix. Nearly 69% completion rate, almost 9 yards per pass attempt. He'll have most of his playmakers back. They did cover at Penn State last season. The Lions lose a lot of their starters on defense from last year, returned only 5. Quarterback Sean Clifford really battled accuracy issues. I know the students were getting on him, rattling up a little bit. Hoosiers, they've been great to bettors in recent seasons, covering 18 of their past 27 against the Big Ten and covering 8 of 9 as a home dog. I like the Indiana Hoosiers here at plus 6.5. But what say you, Chris?
Man, Tony, you just like making things hard for me and not wanting to agree with you the last few weeks or last couple of days, haven't you? You know what? I just, even on the road, I just have a hard time going against Penn State. I'm a James Franklin fan. I think he's a very, very good coach. And you know what? You make very good points about Indiana bringing back a lot of their talent. This was a solid offensive team last year. I still have trouble going against Penn State with a low line because it's not something that you get all the time. Maybe it's a trap, and you know what? Maybe it's something to be said that so much of the money's coming in on Penn State and the line still drops a point. Right now, I think if we come back to this one later in the week, I might have a change of tune. But I think for right now, I'm going to lay the points with Penn State to be determined.
All right, Tony. Tony C here with Chris. We're going butting heads on this one with the Hoosiers and the Nittany Lions. All right, now it's time to recap our picks from today's show. And we got El Ninos here joining us for this segment. It all started with Alex Smart. He likes South Alabama minus 14.5 against that UL Monroe crew over there. Chris Ruffalo, Kansas State laid the 19.5 against Kansas. Ella was on Tulsa minus 10.5 against South Florida. We start with chalk, 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 and there's even more chalk coming up. But then we've got Rod here with Rutgers and Michigan State under 44.5. Shane here with the chalk, Alabama minus the 21 against Tennessee. And of course, I took the dog here, Indiana plus 6.5 against Penn State. All right, we'll go over to Chris. Other than your play, which one do you like the best? Or we might have to rephrase the question. We may have to rephrase it. We'll see. Let's see. Let's see if he likes one.
No, I was going to say Alex didn't get the last name Smart for no reason. I think South Alabama is going to run all over UL Monroe here, and like I said, I think you can play that one up to 16.5. You can maybe even push up to a key number on 17. That gets some extra plus money out of that.
All right, and of course, we got Al Ninos here on this segment with us. Al, other than your play, which one do you like the best?
I actually do like a lot of these plays, but
okay.
Yeah, it's a toss-up between I like Shane's Alabama and Rod's under 44, sorry, and a half. I might go with Rod. I don't know, that's close. I like them two a lot. I'll go Alabama. Shane.
All right, Al says go ahead and take Alabama minus 21. All right, Al, have a good night. Chris, you have a good night. So we'll go ahead and bring on our cappers here. Reminder, guys, tune in tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern time for the drive-thru. We'll take a look. We'll have some picks from Game 2 of that Dodgers and, of course, the Rays World Series and a lot more football picks for you. So be sure to tune in, and we'll get them for you here. So let's go ahead and bring in the crew from today. And, of course, don't forget, we got Rod Zawaki's pick for you to close the show. His birdcage right there. So, guys, have a good night, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.